So we're going to start right off the bat with a plane.
Split it in half, and we're going to basically make an L shape. And if you saw my other tire making tutorial, this part will look familiar to you. We're almost doing a variation of the same thing, except in this case, we're not actually going to build the tread into the section of tire that we're building, but rather we're going to build it as separate pieces, which you'll see in a second. So I'm going to make a sort of low resolution section of tire. I'm going to mirror that. I'm going to array it, and then I'm going to add a curve deform modifier and deform it around this circle curve that I already have placed around my wheel. If you want a more detailed breakdown of that array to curve process, check out the other video on wheel making, which I have right here. But for now, I'm just going to speed this up and show you a little montage of me getting this ready. Essentially, we're just taking it and making it ready to be a base for the wheel. Now you'll see I have some reference images of tire tread in here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a plane, go into edit mode, and I'm going to start modeling out basically each of these little nubs in the tire tread as individual mesh islands. They're not going to be insanely detailed. They're going to be relatively low poly because we're going to have a lot of them. And I'm basically just going to look at one of these bands and try and get it relatively close. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm basically just using the reference images as inspiration here rather than an exact copy. Once I have the flat shapes modeled out, I'm going to actually use an inset, and I'm going to start extruding them upwards. And the reason we're doing an inset is to leave basically a little lip around the bottom, and you'll see why in a little bit later part of the video. But for now, we're going to put that lip in by insetting and just dragging it up slightly, and then we're going to start extruding those sections up so that we have our actual tire nubs. I'm going to do one little last pass here of detailing, because if you look at my reference images, you can see that the tops of these on off-road tires tend not to be completely flat. Usually they have a little bit of some kind of pattern molded into them, and I think that adds a little bit of extra realism, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in. The next thing we're going to do is go into edit mode on our section of tire that we already made, and we're going to put a loop in around the middle if there isn't already one there. We're going to select that loop, use Shift-D to duplicate it, and then do P separate by selection, and that's going to let us peel off this loop as its own individual piece. And the reason we're going to do that is so we can convert it into a curve and use it to create a profile to bend our new nubs so that they fit on the tire. But we're going to have to do a little bit of work first. The problem is when we applied the modifier stack, we basically baked that geometry down into reality. And so now this piece no longer lines up with where our parent piece is, because the parent piece is being modified and this one is the result of that modification. So we're going to have to do a little bit of rotation and some dragging up and down, and I'm just going to eyeball this because it doesn't have to line up completely perfectly, but it needs to be really, really close. And once that's aligned, we can select it, convert it to a curve, and we can just delete half of it since we've only made half of our tire tread, so we only need to deform that half. Now we're going to add a curve modifier to our tire tread object, and we're going to select this profile as our curve. If it's not perfect at first, don't freak out. Just play around with the deform axis, and if you can't get it to work that way, get one that's close, and then fiddle with the scaling of the object itself. In my case, I had to scale it to the -1 on Z, so I basically had to flip it inverted to get it to work, but it's working. Now that we have that piece, we can add an array modifier and another curve modifier, and basically repeat what we did when we made the initial base mesh of the tire by arraying it around the circular curve. And now we're adding tread to our tire. Now, I wasn't totally happy with this tread pattern, so I went ahead and moved some of these objects around because I noticed that in my reference, the outer section is aligned perfectly across, but the inner section is actually kind of in this interesting herringbone pattern where it's tilted forward and it's sort of everything is offset by one towards the center of the tire, so it gives it almost this sort of sweeping look to it. So I want to try and mimic that in my tire. With that out of the way, it's time to make these actually blend into the tire. So this is where those little skirts that we put on them come into play. You're going to want to select those base edges, go into the geometry data, and make a vertex group. Call it whatever you want, just remember what it is, and assign those vertices to it. And what that vertex group is going to let us do is it's going to let us access that mesh data from a data transfer modifier. Now, the data transfer modifier is really, really cool. It basically lets you do exactly what it sounds like, transfer data from one object to another. So to set this up, we're going to want to set our source object as the section of wheel that we made. We're going to want to set our mix mode to replace, and we're going to want to check face corner data, turn on custom normals, and set it to nearest face interpolated. And what this is going to do is it's going to take the nearest face that it can find on our wheel object, and it's going to transfer the information about the normal direction to this edge. And the effect that has is it makes it look like our wheel nubs are blended seamlessly into our wheel object, even though they're still two separate objects. Lastly here, I'm going to add a bevel modifier and an edge split modifier just to add a little bit of more detail around those edges. But the great thing about this setup is because basically everything but the core wheel will end up being modifier based, it's totally non-destructive. So if you want to space these things out a little bit more, or tighten them up, or make more subdivisions, or change the shape of them, it's really, really easy to make big sweeping changes like that without having to basically delete the object and start over. Lastly, I'm going to finish up the wheel by making a simple rubber material out of a principled BSDF and a bump map of the sidewall. And I'm going to do essentially the same thing I did in the last video, so if you want to see the very detailed breakdown of that, go to that video, which I'll link again right here. But basically it's just a sidewall bump image, a color ramp to control it, and it's passed right into basically just a principled BSDF with the settings tweaked a little bit. But there are a couple things that I wanted to talk about with the rubber material that I didn't mention last time, and basically they're this. If you're working in Blender, you really, really need some kind of UVing add-on. In this case, what I'm doing is stacking these islands, and that basically means I'm taking the two UV islands from the sides of the sidewall that I unwrapped, and I'm putting them directly on top of each other. Blender default does not really have a way to do this. This is the norm in basically every single other major 3D program, and it's kind of shocking that we don't really have these tools yet, but it's the current state of Blender. So I personally use UV Toolkit. There's another add-on called Zen UV. Both of these are excellent. I highly recommend to anybody getting serious about modeling that one of the first add-ons you get, if you're going to do any kind of realistic modeling at all, is a UV manager of some kind. Doesn't matter which one necessarily. Zen UV and UV Toolkit are both excellent. I think Zen UV might be currently more developed, but I'm not totally sure about that. It's been a little while since I looked. But definitely pick up a UV add-on of some kind. This will be one of the few add-ons where if you're just a hobbyist, paying for it is still probably worth it. With that wrapped up, let's take a look at the final product. I'm pretty happy with how this one turned out. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Remember, never stop learning.